Welcome to the Criminologist podcast. Happy to have you all with us today. Are you a probation officer who wants to use cognitive behavioral interventions, but struggle with what that actually looks like in a real session? In this video, you're going to see a practical example of cognitive restructuring in action. This is a recreated supervision conversation with a mock client based on an earlier episode of the Criminologist podcast, where we work through risky thought patterns and begin to shift the thinking that drives behavior. If you've ever wondered how to move from risk assessment to real intervention, this is for you. And a quick shout out to Lucy B. and her Tuesdays feature company for bringing this to life visually. Let's take a look. Today we are going to meet our first client, a young woman by the name of Mia Wallace. She was the individual who was convicted of the offense of wrongfully obtaining public assistance. Essentially, she was working from 2013 right until about the 1st of January 2020. An investigation by the Paragon County Prosecutor's Office revealed that she was essentially double dipping. She was not reporting her income from the Chocolate Crow Candy Company, while she was applying for assistance from the government. AFDC, Aid to Families with Dependent Children, and food stamps. So again, she was falsifying her income in order to collect public assistance. So that's the information we have on Mia so far. Now, the old way of doing business, and I'm seasoned enough to recall these days, was we did not rely on risk assessment, something that the Paragon Group can assist you or your agency with. And we really just supervised everybody through a one-size-fits-all approach, or at best, we looked at their offense and the severity of the offense. And I can tell you that it is a cardinal sin in risk assessments to even factor in the severity of an individual's offense when attempting to predict risk of recidivism. It's a trap that not just practitioners fall for, but even administrators and policymakers. They'll look at, for example, an individual who may have pled guilty to aggravated robbery, and based simply on the severity of that offense, they'll deem that individual more at risk to reoffend than somebody who is on for theft or petty theft or whatever the offense. But my point is, you should never factor in the severity of the offense when you're trying to predict risk. Like I said, that's how we did it back in the old days. And again, I was around back in the old days when we were still sort of laboring under Robert Martinson's nothing works mantra, and before Bonta and Andrews and others wrote The Psychology of Criminal Conduct, which led to our current risk, need, responsivity model. And we just took a one-size-fits-all approach, or I said at best we'd look at the offense. So based on what you, the listener, know so far about Mia Wallace, how would you supervise Mia? What would you case plan around with Mia? What would those sessions look like with her? In the old days, you might say, well, you're not working. She was fired from her employer during the course of this investigation. So let's target employment, if you will. And, maybe pay restitution if that's being sought by the government. But that was about it. Now we have the benefit of risk assessment. And if you listened to our last episode entitled Crime Generators, you know what those various crime generators are, those variables. So for Mia, one of those crime generators is the area of education, employment, or lack thereof. She's out of work now, so that would be a risk factor. But also, as far as her education goes, she didn't get through high school, and in looking at her educational experience, she didn't do so well. She was expelled and suspended for fighting with teachers, so she struggled in that area. Another area that we might look at with Mia is around who she hang out with, her companions. In Mia's life, there's an abundance of individuals who are antisocial, who have been involved with the criminal justice system, who don't model pro-social traits, which is really what drives that criminogenic variable. And on the flip side, if we're looking at the positive influences in her life, her friends and even her acquaintances who have never been involved in the criminal justice system and or, model pro-social values, there's really a lack of those individuals in her life. Around alcohol and drug, which that is a crime generator, but it's not as far up on the list of potency as a lot of people might think it is. And we'll get into that in later episodes probably. But for Mia, never had a drug problem. She struggled with alcohol in the past and currently. So it's sort of a mid-range target of change. The other one for Mia, which you'll hear us discuss here in a minute, are her pro-criminal attitude, her thinking. She does a lot of justifying around her criminal behavior, a lot of minimizing around her criminal behavior. Again, when you look at all of these criminogenic variables and the categories, we historically talk about the big four. Those are criminal history, antisocial personality pattern, companions, and criminal attitudes. But it really boils down to the big two, which are criminal thinking and antisocial peers. And so what we're going to do in our interview shortly with Mia, it's a particular intervention tool around her thinking, an alternative thoughts guide. What's behind all of these tools is if we can get individuals to understand that their thinking drives their behavior, that's the nuclear bomb of how we can change behavior with individuals. If you think of sort of a sequence or an equation, it starts with asking the individual to reflect back on a situation that may have led to unfavorable outcomes or a high-risk situation, as I'm going to refer to it as. And then I'm going to have Mia catalog all of the thoughts that were going through her head at the time and write those down, all of her at-risk thoughts. And then I'm going to ask her to follow through with how she felt at the time. And then again, if you think of an equation, thoughts plus feelings equals behavior. And then you'll see the behavior that Mia proceeds to engage in. And then what I'm going to ask her to do next is catalog all the favorable outcomes and all the unfavorable outcomes and tally all those up. And then we'll take a step back and look at the balance of all the favorable outcomes and all the unfavorable outcomes. And we'll get sort of a balance or a ledger. And then to change that balance, it's as simple as going back and trading out some of those risky thoughts for less risky thoughts or thoughts that might lead to better outcomes. And again, that's why I call this an ATG or an alternative thoughts guide. And then as you'll see, that leads to different emotions, which leads to different behavior, which leads to, knock on wood, outcomes which are more favorable than unfavorable. With no further ado, I introduce you to Mia Wallace. Hey, Mia, how are you? Thanks for coming in today.
Hey, good, no problem. I don't know, I'm just a little frazzled. I could only find like 15 minutes to park and I have to go get my kids. So yeah, I don't know. I have a lot going on, but glad to be checking in with you. How are you?
I'm well, and I feel your pain with the parking. I know it's a hassle having to come and park downtown. That's one of my causes. I'm always telling our administration we should make this easier for people trying to succeed and
Yeah,
not have more obstacles in their lives than the average bear.
that's why I'm late too, because it just took me forever to find some place to park. So thanks for
No worries.
Okay.
I appreciate you coming down and, again, navigating those obstacles. That tells me a lot about your character and your commitment to make it through this period of supervision in your life on the pathway to success.
Yeah, I want to do everything right. So thank you.
Yeah. So Mia, as you know, typically when you come in, we like to look at your assessment as our game plan versus your probation agreement. I tend to think of that probation agreement as the judge's to-do list, but that assessment's between you and I as far as what we feel is the best roadmap for you to succeed. Here it is again and again. You're no stranger to this. These are sort of the areas in your life that we feel we should dedicate some resources to best help you succeed. Anything today that jumps out at you that maybe we haven't talked about in the past or that you're curious about and we could maybe dedicate this session to?
I guess you mentioned a pro-criminal attitude, and I don't really think I'm pro-criminal. I'm trying to do the right thing right now, and so I just I'm confused about what that really means, and if that is an issue for me, I guess I want to work on it because I'm trying to do the best I can and be a good mom for my kids and a good role model. So If we could explore that, I guess I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, that's a great question too. And again, not trying to excuse the language, but the authors of the tool, as we've talked about, they identified through the research various um, areas of people's lives that if they're have a propensity of variables in that area can lead to outcomes which we don't like. And for most people, the easier ones to sort of wrap their head around are things like if someone struggles with addiction, for example, or if someone needs help in maybe lack of education or lack of employment, stuff like that. It tells us point resources towards that. Or another one that you and I have talked about, or at least looked at, is the issue of companions, negative companions versus positive companions. And again, how
Yeah.
those associations can lead to unfavorable outcomes. So the one you're talking about, again, it's really, don't get hung up on that pro-criminal or antisocial. That's just the researchers' language that they use. But it's really taking a look at your thought patterns. And again, we know that thoughts lead to behaviors, and that's just sort of criminology 101. We call it the thought behavior link. So what your assessment identified is you have certain thoughts that tend to lead to unfavorable outcomes. And a lot of times we see that manifest itself with people who, maybe justify their criminal behavior or they minimize their behavior, things like that. And again, when we did this assessment, that appeared on your assessment as an area that we could maybe focus on. Is that something you might want to take a deeper dive on today, Mia?
I mean, yeah, I guess I'm trying to be a better person and work on myself. So you're
Sure.
the professional. Yeah, I'll do whatever you think is the best.
So we have several tools that we can use. Here's one that I really like because it's visual. And I don't know about you, but I'm a very visual learner.
Yeah,
Um,
me too.
it's called an alternate thoughts guide, but it's basically, if you remember junior high, um, not arithmetic. Boy, I wasn't great in math in school either. Um, you know, um, between arithmetic and algebra, I'm struggling for the analogy, but it's like an equation basically, and it kind of walks us through this equation, and it shows how if you simply change your thoughts, you can change favorable or unfavorable outcomes in your life. And again, it's, as you can see here, I pulled it up on my screen, and I can print out a copy for you as well. It's just, again, sort of like an equation. So as you see, the first little box in this equation starts with a situation. So let me ask you this, Mia. Think back in your life to, we call them high risk situations, but a situation in your life where you find yourself in that situation and the next day you were looking back thinking, oh man, how did I get into this kind of thing? And again, as we've talked about, this isn't about jamming you up. So feel free to disclose, things that you might be a little bit apprehensive about. This isn't to get you in trouble. It's to help you.
Are you sure? I mean, you're probation. So if I tell you something that I did wrong or illegal, I'm worried that might get me in more trouble.
Well, and you know this as well from previous sessions when we've gone over role clarification. To your point, yeah, I wear several hats, and one of those is, as you say, that of compliance. I'm an officer of the court, so I've got a role to play with reporting behaviors to your sentencing judge. But I'm also your advocate, which means that, unless you tell me something that I feel was going to result in you hurting others or hurting yourselves, I'm a mandated reporter. For the most part, that stays between these four walls.
Okay. That makes me feel a little bit better. It's just hard to trust people in the system, but I have 5 kids and I'm a single mom, so I have money issues. Obviously, I'm not working, um, but I'm young and I like to look good. And so when I'm at the mall and I see something that I like, that's flashy, that's trending, that other girls are wearing, I get triggered and it makes me want to steal.
Okay, that's a perfect example. So in this first box here, where it says situation, I'll just put in, at the mall, and you maybe, like you said, walk past a store or a kiosk and you see something shiny and you might want to steal it. So at that moment, Mia, let me ask, because you see the next box in the equation here says thoughts. What are you thinking when you see that, again, that
I deserve that. I would look good in that.
okay,
I want that.
let me write those in. I would look good in that, I deserve that, and I kind of talked over you. What was the other one?
I want it.
I want it. Perfect. So when you're having those thoughts, I want it, I deserve it, I look good in that. What are some feelings that you're feeling at that time?
Excited, like thrilled, like pumped up.
Okay, perfect. So again, here's where the equation and the math comes in. So those thoughts that you're having of, I deserve that, I look good at that, I want that, and those emotions and those feelings of being excited and thrilled and pumped up equal what behavior?
I'm going to take it.
Exactly. You're going to take it. So let's fill it into this box here. I'm going to take it. Now,
Yep.
the next part, if you follow the sort of sequence here down, it asks that we list, it says favorable outcomes and unfavorable outcomes, but in layman's terms, that means all the good shit and all the bad shit that happens as a result of your behavior, which was, I'm going to take it. So let's start with the good shit. What's the favorable outcomes or the good shit that comes out of you taking it?
Well, it feels like a success, like I got what I wanted. I have the newest stuff, the newest shit. Like usually it's shoes, so people respect me when they see me wearing that. I feel good about myself in it because it almost is like a status thing, and so it makes me feel better about who I am. And then I just feel like I got away with something.
Okay. And then in the next box here, you see it says unfavorable outcomes. But again, in layman's terms, what's all the bad shit that might happen?
Well, they could catch me, and loss prevention could try act like mini cops like they do and try to lock me up or get me in trouble again, get on more probation, um, hear mess from my family, from you, other people that want me to do well in life. That assessment you do with me when we first, that would make it worse for me. I would have like more points on that from getting in trouble. Um, and I guess I'd feel bad about myself that I got in more trouble.
Perfect. I appreciate you sharing that with us, with me, Mia. So then again,
Mhm.
if we think of, that scales of justice lady, we're balancing out all the bad shit and all the good shit. Which of these columns has more stuff in it, or which weighs more?
The bad stuff,
Sure.
definitely.
Yeah. And then in the final little square here, triangle, it says balance of outcomes. And as you just said, the bad shit outweighs the good stuff, right?
Hmm.
So that was a great sort of illustration of how these tools work. Now, here's the fun part, Mia. Changing all that bad shit to those outcomes. It's as simple as just simply changing your thoughts. So I'll show you this. We're going to use the exact same situation. You're at the mall, you see a pair of shoes you like, but this time we're going to try to come up with some alternate thoughts. That's why I call this an alternate thoughts guide. Some alternate thoughts or some alternate thinking that might result in better outcomes, all right? Not necessarily ideal outcomes, just better outcomes. So what are some thoughts when you're at the mall and you see those shoes? Could you replace those previous thoughts with that might result in better outcomes?
I mean, the first one would probably just be it's not worth it.
Sure.
After going through those positive and negatives, it's just that's not worth it. Um, if I really want something that bad, I could save up for it and get it the right way so I didn't feel bad. Um, and just maybe like take a deep breath and relax.
Yeah, perfect. And then if you're having those thoughts, what would some emotions or feelings be that you have after those thoughts?
I think I'd be proud of myself and feel just like good about my decision making and just being a mom, being proud of that I'm doing the right thing that I want my kids to see me doing.
Yeah, that's awesome. So those thoughts plus those feelings, again, just like a math equation here, would equal what behavior this time?
Just like walk away, like keep going and yeah, not take it.
Yeah, you'd walk away, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then again, if we sort of follow the sequence chain here, we're gonna do the same thing now. We're gonna add up all the good shit and all the bad shit, but this time it's a result of the behavior of you walking away. What would the favorable outcomes or the good stuff be with that behavior?
And I'm not like looking behind my back or worried that have somebody following me. I didn't go to jail.
Mm-hmm.
I feel good that I made the right decision
Exactly.
and
And
my
then
family would be proud of me.
yeah, your family would be very proud of you, right? What would
Hmm.
some unfavorable outcomes be, or some of the bad stuff with that decision?
Um, I guess really just that I don't have the new shoes.
Sure, exactly. So again, same as we did before. Let's put those on the scales and see which weighs more, which has more weight to it, which is going to tilt the balance there, the good stuff or the bad stuff.
The good stuff for sure.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So you can see here, what did we do? It was the same situation, but you changed the outcome of good stuff versus bad stuff. And it was as simple as doing what, Mia?
Just changing, I guess, the way I think about things.
Yeah.
Like how my thoughts really kind of affect what I actually do.
Yeah, exactly. There's no, magic potion to it. It really is as simple as that. Um, but now that being said, sometimes it's easier said than done, right?
Right.
And as we know, with everything in life, whether it's, exercise or routine or habits, it's all about practice, 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 practice.
Yeah.
So if you're up for it, I printed some of these alternate thought guides out for you, and we've been using the junior high math analogy. I'm gonna give you some homework here. How about if I give you 2 or 3 of these guides, which I think you've got this down now, and then
Yeah.
between now and our next session, just whether you might find yourself in a risky situation, or even if you're just sitting on the couch and you think of something in the past that happened that didn't have such great outcomes, go ahead and practice trading out those thoughts, those alternate thoughts, and fill in some of these alternate thought guides for me, and we can discuss them when you come back next time. What are your thoughts around
Okay.
that? How does that
Yeah,
sound?
cool. I could definitely do that, and I think it might just be beneficial in helping me understand all of the stuff that we kind of went through. I mean, I get it, but to do it on my own, I think would be a good idea. So, yeah, I'm down.
Cool. I appreciate it, Mia. I don't want you to get a parking ticket out there either. So,
I know.
typically we talk longer than this, but we had a concentrated, fruitful session today. I feel. How do you
Good.
how do you feel about today?
I feel good. Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
And thanks for being considerate on my parking because I really can't afford a ticket. So,
Yeah, no worries. All right. Should we make an appointment, say, a month from today?
yeah, that works. Same time.
Yep. Same bat time, same bat channel.
All right.
All right. We'll see you then, Mia.
Thanks, Joe.
All right.
Bye.
Bye bye.